Dan RadioStyle, hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Mental diet. Neville Goddard's secret little sauce that he puts on everything. And I'll tell you what, it makes a big, giant difference when you look at it in hindsight. And certainly when you practice this and pay attention to this, you'll find, oh my gosh, this is probably where 90% of my problems have been. The infamous handbrake that we frequently refer to, mental diet. So mental diet talks about what we allow ourselves to consume from a focus standpoint. So mental, of course, from the thoughts and words and deeds and all that. But as I've said before, what you think, what you say, what you do is how we manifest. It's essentially our focus. And as we've frequently said, it's a focus-based universe. So what we focus on, we create more of. So mental diet talks about what it is that we're actually thinking about during the day. What is it that we're allowing our time to be spent on? When it comes to trying to create a better world for ourselves, are we spending a majority of our free time thinking about that? Or are we spending time thinking about how Bobby Joe just hurt us, or how Sue is, cheating on us, or how Joanne is doing something that no one likes? What, right? What are we focusing on? Are we talking about the news? Are we focusing on how Trump is such a horrible person? Or are we focusing on how, what's the lady in England, West, or May, whatever her name is? Are we talking about how she's not doing any, I don't know. Whatever the thing of the day is, what are we allowing ourselves to focus our time and efforts on? If there's something you'd like to experience in your life that you're currently not experiencing, well, then it would make sense that you would want to spend more time focused on that outcome, living in that end, imagining that scenario, rather than maybe scattering your seeds onto the sidewalk, onto the pavement. Some of it goes in the field, right? There's a fun parable about scattering your seeds, right? Putting them in the right place, spending our mental energy in the right way, putting our thoughts into the right buckets, if you will, is how you create more of what you want. A couple things come to mind when I talk about mental diet. One, I think one of the biggest key things that is important to understand is a lot of people panic when they have a negative thought. Negative thoughts are not the end of the world. They're not something that you need to freak out about. They're not good. They're not things that are necessarily going to bring you a better world. No. But negative thoughts are indications of something unto themselves. So again, negative thought once in a while, no big deal. We have them. Quick turnaround with a positive affirmation, no big deal, right? It happens. Cool. I had a negative thought, a little moment of contrast. That's all it is. Don't need to get hung up. Don't need to freak out about the fact that you had a negative thought. Just throw that positive affirmation out there. Just keep focusing on what it is. Just realize you just had a moment where, something negative popped into your head. Maybe it was a question your friend had earlier. Maybe something you read someplace. Maybe just a doubt you have, whatever. We can put a little bit of a positive spin on that and move on in our day. And again, it's one of those things where you don't want to resist negativity, because if you resist it, you'll get more of it. You basically embrace it when it happens so you can learn from it and move forward. Now, where there's a problem, and again, it's still not a negative thing and nothing to freak out about, but this is where I really think the mental diet, and when you're paying attention to it, it's going to come into play, because you're going to start to notice the times where you're not keeping yourself focused where you should be. So one of the things that tends to happen if there's a problem, if there's an underlying wound, is you'll have repetition. You'll have cycles. You'll notice that you keep having this certain fear pop up, or you keep having a certain doubt that keeps rearing its head, or you keep going back to a fear of cheating. Maybe you got cheated on in the past, right? So you keep freaking out that, oh, what if he cheats on me? What if he cheats on me? Right? So we keep going back to these other thoughts. Now, when that happens, when you're having repetition and it's a negative thought pattern, there's something deeper at work here. So again, not to freak out. It's not okay. You don't need to. There's no reason to do that, but pay attention to what's going on and pay attention to the cause. Most of the time, a lot of the time, I don't know, most of the time might be pushing it a hair. A lot of the time, this is where stuff like the self-love and things along those lines will start to creep in. A lot of the times there's doubts in us because we don't believe in ourselves. Maybe we have an insecurity. Maybe there's some mole that exists on our cheek that we're really self-conscious about, or maybe our body's oddly shaped, or maybe we're not as healthy as we'd like to be, or maybe we're actually super attractive and it's kind of awkward. That happens to some people, right? When you're really a pretty, I don't know, this is what I've heard, but it's weird because no one wants to approach you, right? So that's a problem unto itself. Who knows what your problem is, but a lot of the times we get little issues that will create sort of insecurities in us, and these things will rear their heads. And we need to look at the problem. We need to love that part of ourselves that feels like it's inadequate. The part of ourselves that's crying right now and says, I'm not good enough. That part needs a hug. As I've said frequently, embrace that part that's having difficulty. Look at it. Why is this part of me feeling like I'm not worthy? Maybe it goes back to my ex-boyfriend who used to constantly tell me I was fat, or used to constantly tell me, oh, you're an idiot. This is what's up. I can't believe you thought that. Right? And we'll get ourselves into places where we're timid and shy and bashful and afraid to put a foot forward because the last time we did, we got shot down. So mental diets are paying attention to what we're feeding ourselves mentally, what we're focusing our attentions on, and what we're allowing to come to fruition. A couple other important things to keep in mind. One, a lot of times mental diets as well. So we're thinking about so-and-so. Maybe I've shot out a text message. Maybe I'm trying to get in touch with them. I haven't heard from them in a couple days, and I'm trying to initiate some sort of contact. So I shoot them a text message, say something nice, something sweet. Hey, hope you're doing well. Hope you're having a nice day. Boom, send. 20 minutes later, still no response. Hey, I just thought wanted to say hi. Hope everything's okay. It's usually, I hear from you sooner than this. Boom, send that text message out. Still nothing back. Well, a lot of the times, some of us will start to fill in the blanks. We'll start to assume things. We'll start to figure out in our minds what they must be doing. And what's funny is, depending on how we are, if we've got an insecurity issues, or if we've got some self-love problems, or we've got some other self-sabotage issues, if you will, you'll start to assume that they don't want to talk to you, that you're bothering them. You'll start to assume that they don't want to hear anything about you, that they don't actually care about you, that maybe they're interested in some third party. Like, your mind will go in a million directions. Again, you have zero facts, but your mind starts to fill in the blanks. Now, if you're kind of more in the positive area of your mental diet, maybe you have fewer of these self-love issues affecting you, a lot of times you're just going to give them the benefit of the doubt. That's usually the better approach to go anyways, but you won't be assuming it's something wrong with you. You'll assume they're not getting back to you because they're busy, because maybe work's tied them up, maybe something's going on with their kid, maybe that meeting went longer than they initially thought was going to go, right? You start giving benefit of the doubt in a positive way. Mental diet. It's all part of this whole mental diet thing. Where do you go? Do you tend to jump to conclusions in the negative, or do you tend to jump to conclusions in the positive? Do you give the benefit of the doubt? Also part of the mental diet. Very important when we think about it. Really, what I think is key about this is paying attention to what you're thinking about, to what you're focused on. Most of us don't do that very well. We're on automatic pilot so often that we don't actually know or notice all the places that we're actually putting negative energy out there, thinking about that negative thing that keeps happening, thinking about that third party and why they won't go away. I can't seem to figure out why they won't go away. I keep looking at you, but you won't go away. It's one of those things where we don't notice how much we're keeping something in our life that maybe we don't like. We're trying to resist something when in reality we just need to embrace it and let it go. Yeah, no, I don't. I've got no room in my life for this third party. They obviously need to go. That's how that's going to be. I'm not interested in that energy. I'm going to focus on this reality where the third party's not there. In fact, it's just me and my person. And life is groovy and great. And we've got a child, and we've got our house with a white picket fence, right? We've got the whole 9 yards. Got a awesome lawnmower. Maybe it's electric. I don't know, whatever your community supports, right? Exactly. All those things. You got your dream. Your dream home is there. Mental diets are huge. One of the other big things that are floating around out there, I think this is kind of a challenge, but I like the idea of it. No pun intended, I guess, calling it a challenge, because it is called the Mental Diet Challenge. There's a common one's a 7-day challenge where you go 7 days and essentially try not to have negative thoughts. Now, of course, you're going to have negative thoughts. That's part of this experience, but it's what you do with them That's really important. So when they do pop up, appropriately throwing a positive affirmation and kind of getting yourself back into a more positive mental diet. Again, the thing that's really important about this mental diet, the challenge, is paying attention to what we're actually consuming mentally. That's the win. That's where I think for sure you're going to take home first prize. You're going to get the blue ribbon for sure because you're paying attention to all the things that have been going through your mind. So the 7-day challenge, go 7 days, pay attention to what you've been thinking about, maybe even jot it down, maybe even do a little bit of a journal, like catch yourself every time you start thinking some weird daydream thought. You don't necessarily want to focus on it, but one thing you kind of do want to notice is it happening a lot? Are you seeing a pattern? If you are, what is the root cause of this? What is bothering you? What is scaring you so much that you keep throwing this doubt cycle into your manifestation? What is it that you're not believing is not possible? Maybe you need to what if yourself into it. I've talked about that technique before. Maybe you need to bring the end result in a hair. Maybe it's too far out and it's just too hard to believe. Maybe there's too many things that need to happen. So maybe you want to shorten that and bring in the breadcrumbing, they call that, right? Bring in a slightly smaller version of it. Don't lose sight of the end result. As I keep saying, you don't want to lose sight of where you're going, but maybe bring in a slightly smaller end result that's a little easier to get to, and then still keep that further one out there a little further, right? Maybe that's more your 3-year plan, and maybe your 18-month plan, right? And then maybe your 6-month plan is actually your slightly refined end result, and maybe that one's a little easier to kind of get behind. So pay attention. Do that 7-day challenge. Notice what you're spending time thinking about. I promise you, if you're having issues manifesting, if you're having issues getting this thing to come to fruition, or at least getting close to it to where you're getting options or opportunities to where you need to act or you need to do something, right? If you're having a hard time getting to that place, pay attention to what your mental diet is. Odds are, very strong odds, is there is a lot of negativity in there. And a lot of people just don't, it happens so subconsciously that they don't even realize they're doing it. That's the funny part. They'd be like, no, my mental diet's awesome. And then they do the 7-day challenge and they start paying attention and they find all these places where their thoughts were not in line with what they're trying to do. Mental diet. What are you feeding yourself? What is the thoughts that keeps your day going? Is it going towards your manifestation, or is it going against your manifestation? Let's pay attention to what's going on. Am I having self-love issues? Am I having problems with beliefs? What's going on? What's at work? Is everything groovy and good? That might be your assessment too. You might look at it and be like, wow, I'm surprisingly on par. I'm like frequently thinking positive things, thinking about living in the end. Like, wow, and that might be the result you come to. And then you're like, I don't understand why it's not working. And I'm going to be perplexed too, frankly, because really a lot of us don't realize how much negativity we entertain in our own mental diet. Hopefully this makes a giant difference for you guys. Love you all. Stay on Radio Style.